For me, it really comes down to always doing what you say you're going to do, not only to others, but also to yourself.
I want to make sure that we drive this point home. You cleaned their bathroom, stocked it, and then you followed that up with saying, don't pay me, just pay me later.
What's the best decision you have ever made?
Marrying my wife.
Man.
There's no question
there wasn't
about
a hesitation.
No, I got to work on that timing in case I'm ever asked. So I can.
I feel like less of a man right now. Everybody, you're kicking it with the Homeboys and the Homeboys podcast. Scotty and I got a special show for you today. We are talking with Jon Schoeller of More Than Money Consulting and the Schoeller Family YouTube channel. It has got amazing content. There's lots of people out there watching this guy and his family.
I know him as the Frugal Investor
because
out there
they're
too.
really a special family. But yes, the Frugal Investor. We are a real estate podcast. And that's what initially drew us to Jon. But we're going to get into a lot more than that. Jon, how are you, my friend?
Pretty good. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited for this.
Oh, well, you've already made our day. We got to chat a little bit before we came on the air here. And, you know, it's always, Scotty and I always say, whenever we can bring people on the show that inspire us, that's always the best feeling when we get up from this table. And, you know, our conversation was so interesting before we started recording, and we're going to get into some of that today. But
to our listeners out there, this is going to be a very interesting one. Not only does this guy know what he's talking about with leverage and real estate and the business that we're all in, but he's got some special lessons out there about how to live life to your fullest and to live a life worth living. So I think it's going to be a very interesting show.
Amen. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a real estate podcast, so we're going to go down that road. So I've been in real estate, actually not for a long time, 6 years, but I've done a lot in that little amount of time. So I kind of started off life knowing I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wasn't a good employee. In fact, I was a very awful employee. Quickly realized I don't do well with kind of that authority and telling me where to be and what to do. I'm an extremely hard worker, and I do what I say I'm going to do, but it kind of needs to be on my terms, or I need to have some control over it because, you know, some may have, you know, I was watching Alex Hormozi. A lot of people follow him now, and he said that, you know, good or bad, a lot of entrepreneurs or successful people have a superiority complex. And I don't like admitting that, but maybe I do in the fact that I always feel like I know a better way to do something, or I can do it a little bit better than maybe others are doing it. And that while that may be true or not true, the confidence in thinking that allows you to kind of move as an entrepreneur. And so when I was 20 years old, I was working for a company doing deliveries and moving and stuff. And I quickly realized, or I was confident that I could do it better. And I kind of ran the company in my position as an employee as if it were my own company. And that determined to be very fruitful when they were starting to go out of business. All their contractors already assumed I was pretty much an owner or ran the company anyway, gave me all their contracts. I took over the business. I ran a moving/delivery company for almost 9 years. I sold that so my wife and I could go travel nursing. Quickly realized that my little retirement there wasn't going to last long because I was frankly miserable. I had nothing to work on. I was used to always doing something, having something to do, having a purpose. And this is a lesson to people out there who think that you're just trying to rush to retirement and drink Mai Tais on the beach. That's not reality for most people. You will get miserable very fast. And so anyway, I started looking into real estate. I had some money saved up. We were making okay money. And I said, where can I put my money to work? And what's the first thing that pops up if you Google that? Real estate. Mm-hmm. So I dived into Bigger Pockets, got on the podcast, didn't get on the podcast, but listened to the podcast, started to read everything. What was my favorite book? The Robert Kiyosaki book. Everybody knows.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There you go. So obviously I dived into that. The Millionaire Next Door. I started reading things like that. And I said, I want to get into real estate. We moved to West Virginia for my wife to go to nurse anesthesia school. When we got settled here, I started meeting with every real estate investor in the area, letting them know that I wanted to get invested, wanted to get started. I met with my now partners, Andrew and Steve, They needed what I had and I needed what they had. I was really good at running business and money and managing money. And they were really good at finding real estate and learning the deals or knowing the deals. We joined up 6 years later. We've now flipped over 200 houses. We've got some rentals. We got some Airbnbs. I own some personal rentals. And just recently, over the probably last year and a half, 2 years, I've gotten extremely heavy into doing private money lending myself.
Oh, nice.
Is that good enough?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you're kind of. I mean, you're kind of like us. You're a little bit of a mutt. And we kind of follow that same path. But
at the same time, it's a clear business model. I don't want people out there to think that you just get into real estate and do it all. And I mean, our businesses all support and tie into each other, as it sounds like yours do. Now, you'll get some ancillary benefits, like you'll peel off a rental for yourself and things like that. But, staying focused on a clear path, and you're somebody who keeps us that way too. You believe in that as much as anybody. We'll go down some side roads once in a while that.
Hey, I've got us off.
We're cleaning up a few right now.
But
in general, we stay focused. There's so much that you covered there to touch on. It sounds like you hit the ground running with real estate in a way by being humble enough to admit you don't have the answers, going around, talking to people, learning. Sounds like you're a voracious learner, whether it's podcasts or reading. And I find that interesting because it's kind of how Clint and I both got into it. Those same two books inspired me to get into real estate. So tell me, so you were already in West Virginia and you're going out talking to all these investors, trying to find somebody to match up with, or are you just trying to learn?
I was just trying to learn, actually, but I like the idea of kind of joining up with somebody, and I preach that a lot now. Is like, JVing or joint venturing or partnering with somebody, or even on your first couple deals, it can help with accountability. Like if you're someone who's been talking about doing real estate, talking about it, reading the books, doing podcasts, but you haven't taken any action, get around people that do take action and offer whatever you're good at. So like you talked about being humble. That's exactly what got me joined up with Andrew and Steve. They didn't know how much money I had saved at the time because, frankly, I was very hesitant to tell anybody that I had, at the time, hundreds of thousands of dollars set aside because I thought they might take advantage of me or only want to partner with me or do something with me because I had that money. Not just Steve and Andrew, but anybody. Mm-hmm. So I was very hesitant to tell anybody about that. And I stayed like that for a little while in our business partnership. But I brought things to the table like, they could see that I was a go-getter right away. And like you said, staying humble. I remember my first week in the office, I came in to help them with some consulting. This is kind of how we joined up. I knew social media. My wife and I ran a travel social media Instagram, and they were trying to build theirs. So they're just bringing me in the office to consult on their social media. But I quickly showed them I was much more than that, and I kept my ears open. So if you're new to this game, somebody, no matter what level they're at, always needs something. Or they're doing something they don't like to do in which you could take off their plate. So I knew they just moved into this brand new office. And while I was in there, somebody went to use the bathroom and said they were out of toilet paper. And they started saying that that bathroom really needs clean. They weren't talking to me. They were talking amongst themselves. Guess what I did? The next day in that office that I was coming in there, not paid yet, I was nothing yet. No talks of partnership or anything. I got there 30 minutes before everybody else. I completely cleaned their new office bathroom and stocked it with every product that needed.
The millionaire next door.
This is really random, right? Mm-hmm. It's super random. I get it. But think about what that looks like to somebody who just met you of like, oh my, we didn't even ask him to do this. And if he's going to do this on something really random and small like that, what will he do like on a real task or in a real partnership? And so I quickly did these things. I didn't have to do them. And I also, like in the first year of partnership, this took a little while and we don't have enough time on here to talk about how it all rolled out. But the first year I said, y'all don't have to pay me. Pay me on the back end, but let me prove my value first. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. But what is your value to coming into a partnership or coming into a relationship if you don't have any real estate background? And if you're not going to either say you have money or don't have any money, you got to prove yourself otherwise. And that's kind of what I did. And it all worked out. And it is what it is today. But if you're just getting started in this, stay humble. Don't be afraid to ask for help, but also keep your ears open. Somebody always needs something and you can provide value to them in which will allow them to join in with them, even if it's just temporary.
I want to make sure that we drive this point home. You cleaned their bathroom, stocked it with, supplies, and then you followed that up with saying, "Don't pay me, just pay me later."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you talk about, doing what's necessary to make an impression, and then also knowing your value to where, you can improve a situation and just worry about money later. I mean, it's freaking incredible. I mean, that's a heck of a story. I don't know. Scotty and I are big on work ethic. Big on work ethic. We hate people making excuses and saying, that they're always the victim. That whole world. So whenever we see other people that dive into something, it's inspiring.
Yeah, we started. Neither of us had anything. We started this because we were both too stubborn, like you, to go out and get jobs.
Didn't someone want a boss over us, tell us what to do, like
and no one taught us this stuff. We just learned it the hard way. So when people come looking for answers and aren't willing to just jump in and do that, they're not for us. So I love that attitude. Talk about believing in yourself, and talk about learning from the millionaire next door. You got a millionaire in there cleaning toilets and saying, "Don't pay me for a year." I mean, you soaked that book in for sure. That was the lesson.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing I would say, people ask me, what determines success, or what determines your value? And for me, it really comes down to always doing what you say you're going to do, not only to others, but also to yourself. So if you made a promise to yourself that I'm going to go to the gym 4 days a week, you have to develop something. And I guess maybe I've been fortunate with this. I call it my inner voice, or the person that holds me accountable is yourself, because unless you hire somebody to hold you accountable, it's going to be very hard to find that person, because a lot of people are, self-obsessed. They're trying to worry about their own goals and things that they got to get done. So I to have this inner voice of it's sometimes hard on me, but it's I don't feel like going to the gym today, right? I don't feel like going. We all have this discussion. This inner voice though is right there, and it goes, well, if you don't go today, you might not go tomorrow. Why aren't you going? You need to go to the gym. What's your excuse? And I've developed this inner discipline that's super strict on myself. But I always make sure that if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And the same goes with myself. And I feel like that's gotten me further than almost anything else. I'm not highly educated. I barely graduated high school. I had a 1.9 GPA. I was told the last 2 weeks of high school, don't even come to school. If you come to school one more day, you're probably going to not be able to walk because you have too many discipline write-ups. You're not doing anything here. I wasn't going to go to college. I think I was 154 out of 160 students. It wasn't great for me, my outlook. And so I quickly realized that I can't provide, I'm not going to go to college and get that normal high-paying job that most people seek after. So I got to provide value elsewhere. And I quickly realized most people don't do what they say they're going to do, or stick with a plan for long enough to see it through, or make that initial sacrifice. And I've always been good at delaying gratification. And so I think that will get most people further than almost any other type of skill set you could have, in my opinion.
Clint's real worried about the lack of ability for delayed, like you said, gratification, but more than that, delayed, revenues from hard work that takes a long time to do it. He sees a trend out there, and we talk about it a lot, of people not willing to play the long game as much anymore, and not to just throw millennials under the bus, because I think it's becoming across the board more and more, and there's a lot of reasons behind it. But I think that there's a couple of qualities there that you've mentioned that we agree are so important. We work with we do some joint venture stuff with some old school guys that if they walked into Denny's, that they wouldn't think that they could pay the bill, but they're carrying 20 million cash at all times. But we've been doing business with them for so long that we each look each other in the eye, we tell each other what we're going to do, and then we do it. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter what goes wrong or what. You follow through, and we think that's really important. But what's your message for these younger folks about this, this instant gratification people need, especially in business and in real estate? And we believe in the long game in real estate. I've been doing this since 1998, Clint since 2001. And we play almost exclusively the long game. So what's your message to that younger generation? How do you overcome that desire?
Yes, I think I think this is twofold, and I'm a millennial by date. I think I'm 36, and I think I don't know what the cutoff is. I think I'm within a couple of years, but I think I'm technically a millennial. So, I think we got to remember who raised the millennials, right? A lot of it comes from home. A lot of it does. And I'm not saying millennials don't have a different outlook, or maybe their work ethic isn't there like the older generation, but we've lost something along the way. And it's easy, I think, to blame the younger generation, but sometimes we forget who raised them, right? And I think a lot has to do with
couldn't agree more.
Who raises you? Like what values do they instill in you? And while it might be easier to blame the 18, 19, and 20-year-old, and eventually it does become your fault, right? I'm not going to take blame away or do the victim thing, because eventually it does become your fault. But I think that we got to remember how to raise our children properly. And I think a lot of that is we need to start educating them, not on just on working hard, but also the working smart hard. I was never taught about Roth IRAs. I was never taught about investing my money. I got great work ethic, which is great, but that can also end you up in a really hard 9-to-5 job for the rest of your life. Working your whole life away and not spending time with your family, or not traveling or doing things you truly love, just because you have the work ethic part. That's part of the equation. But we really need to start educating our youth and educating, it's across the board really, but on what to do with the money you've worked so hard for. We have this huge gap in our overall system that we're just not teaching people what to do with money. The information is out here, and I feel like sometimes we feel like it's easier to grasp, and I've had to be educated on this a little bit with my clients. I feel like, oh my gosh, how do you not know what a Roth IRA is, or how do you not know what an ROI is? Well, we live in this world, right? We live in this world, but all of us on this call right now, at some point, didn't know what ROI meant, didn't know what interest rate meant. And we had to educate ourselves, right, and get around that environment. And some of that was by happenstance and luck. But I think we really need to start doing that, and the accountability needs to go across the board, both on the younger generation. I'll just say younger generation, because I think we even have Gen Z now. Right. It's hard for me to keep up with all of it. Mm-hmm. But I think the younger generation needs to seek out the information more, and the older generation needs to get better at I don't like handouts, but a hand up. We need to start extending that education and get it into the school systems and telling people that college isn't the only way, right? Yes. Maybe that's not the best investment. Do you know how to calculate the ROI on your degree? Because if you're going to spend $200,000 in an Ivy League school, but that degree earns you $40,000 a year, that's not a good ROI.
It's right? Like I'm talking to Clint right here.
It really is.
It's literally like I'm looking in the mirror here talking to Clint.
Well, it really is.
It's the truth. I think we're quick to blame. You got the boomer, you got people picking on the boomers, you got the people picking on millennials, but it's across the board in my eyes. And I think we just need to somehow figure out a way to get a system together, get it into school systems, make it prevalent in school systems. I'm not talking about one Dave Ramsey class, a semester. It's got to be more than that.
It makes no sense.
They give you more semesters of Spanish, and how many of us remember that?
Teach them how to balance a damn checkbook. Just start with the basics. The very basics.
I always talk about it. I took 4 years of German in high school, and I can tell you how old I am and what my name is.
Right.
Right. That's where it stops. 4 years.
Yeah.
German. But and I'm a big, as you've seen, college, costs, skyrocket. But yet, in our business, we struggle to find tradesmen, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, people, and the good ones that we know, and how much money they're making, mm-hmm. and how successful they are, and how they can kind of create their own path. That education is not just going to college. I think it's important that we educate our kids that college isn't maybe your path. My best friend in the world is an HVAC technician, and he's very, very, very successful. Runs his own shop and very successful. So anyhow, it's easy to kind of point the finger at millennials. I think the name millennial probably doesn't help out.
Yeah,
it's just Generation X and Generation Z and all that just sounds. I don't know.
Yeah, there was a difference. There was a shift around that time, and so it's easy to just paper the millennials, but there was a shift overall with everyone, that we see, and that accountability, one of the things that you mentioned was that you taught yourself these things, ROI. You taught yourself these things. So no one taught us these things either. We had to go out and get it. And it separated, that was the first hurdle that separated out the weak from the strong, was who would go out and educate themselves. And we need to lower that hurdle, because we've got to get this next generation up and running and making good money, knowing what to do with it, making good long-term decisions. So that's part of why we do this podcast. We have a simple amortization, or just a interest calculator on our website. We're not in the business of savings accounts or anything, but we just wanted to show people those simple things. So we're right behind you with that. We believe that financial education and whatever we can do that we learned the hard way, try to pass that on. And I think it's neat when someone like you has built such a big following. I mean, just such a huge following by giving this stuff. And then you have the More Than Money that call that people can listen into. Is that how that works? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so that was kind of our way of giving back. Now, we do charge for it, and that's to keep the riffraff out. If there's a free service out there, you're going to deal with a lot of spammers and stuff. But it's $50 a month. Yeah. We go live 2 times a month. I'm on 95% of the calls. My partner's the FI couple. They have like over 100,000 on Instagram. They're our partners on this, along with my wife and I. And 2 times a month, we pick 2 different topics. Like just last night we went live. We talked about midterm Airbnbs. Sometimes we talk about Roth IRAs. Sometimes we talk about how to talk to your HR department about your structuring your 401k. This is just stuff that like they don't teach in school. And if you were to I try to tell people, if they could calculate the ROI on joining something like More Than Money, don't join our group, join any group, but just join a group. I like our group. I'm biased towards our group, and I know that I'm giving you great information, but join something that's educating you, because let's say for $50, you paid that and you figured out what a Roth IRA was for the first time, and you started contributing to that at the age 27, and otherwise you never would have. We're talking about, like, if you were to max a Roth IRA from the time you're 27 to the time you're 60, that's an extra 1.2 to 1.7 million tax-free money you would have at 60 from a $50 investment in your education. That's insane to me. Like, that information is not going to fall in your lap. You're going to have to seek it out.
Yeah, we show people that on an interest calculator. If you start saving at age 21, $100 a paycheck, and then you retire when you're 62, what that number is. And in the comments, it's always the same thing. That doesn't add up. People don't understand the concept of compounding interest.
Compounding interest.
And the concept of savings. And they almost like poo-poo on it. Like
they don't almost poo-poo on it. They you're the one who talks about it most of the time, and they think that you're the biggest idiot this world
for saving. because I encourage people to save, even if it's $1 a month to start, just to build those habits and to set up the system and the structure of it all. Even if it's $1. And
we talk about that a lot. We talked about that with the instant gratification. We've seen a shift where it seems like the younger generation don't buy into more of the Dave Ramsey type, mentality. That they think that's silly. It's more of the Grant Cardone, just more and more and more and more and more, and all this stuff.
Not
and,
Grant Cardone.
We're not fans on this show, but
Dave Ramsey is not right about everything. Like, I'm not anti-credit card, but the thing is Dave Ramsey's right for about 90% of people.
I would say 98% of people.
Yeah, probably. I just
most.
People like to skip steps, and Dave Ramsey's like, if there's 10 steps, Dave Ramsey's 1 through 7. Yeah. Like, get through those, and then start leveraging your credit cards to get points, and start leveraging debt and take out loans and borrow money once you're fully educated on how to do all that and how to structure all that, protect your downside, and understand contingency plans and all of that. But if you're out here and you're carrying $200,000 of student loan debt, paying 20% on credit card debt, and you're talking to me about like leveraging debt to buy your first rental property, you've skipped steps. You've skipped some steps, in my opinion.
Tell us about it.
You're just going to dig a deeper hole. Like, people always argue this with people. It's like, oh, if I had $1 million, I'd be fine. Or if I had $2 million, I'd be fine. And It sounds that way, but I promise you, most of you would be in more trouble.
Yeah.
You would be in more trouble within 6 months because you're not going to pay off you might even pay off the old debt, but you're quickly going to leverage that $1 or $2 million to go into bigger types of debt. And then you're not going to have a plan for that 3, 5, 10 years down the road when that money's gone to keep paying those notes. And you're in much bigger trouble than you were if you only had the 100 grand. Learn how to manage the money you have first before building bigger and better money, or at the same time, at least, because if you don't know how to manage it, it doesn't matter what you make. My wife's a CRNA. She makes great money, up to $250,000 a year if she worked full time. And she's surrounded by people in the same field that are still paying their student loan debts 15, 20 years after they graduated, and they have to work. They have to pick up shift. My wife works the days she wants to work out of the month, and that's it. We've been fortunate to be financially free for the last 3 or 4 years now, and we still work to accumulate and build a better life and secure our future. But most people in her field are working because they have to. And if you're making 250 grand a year, you should be debt free and have a substantially good life for yourself within year 5 minimum, in my opinion. Otherwise, I don't know where the money's going.
We agree.
Where's the money going?
My only bone to pick with Robert Kiyosaki, and well, he has turned more into a tin hat kind of guy with aliens coming and everything, but nonetheless, my main bone to pick with him is that he preaches about leverage, but he doesn't differentiate the line between getting financially secure, understanding leverage, the education, and then using the power of leverage. The power of leverage for folks like us and you, we can do it. We understand the risks, the downside. We can leverage cheap money with also having reserves to pay it all off if it all goes wrong. But for the common person, leverage should not be used in life. It just shouldn't. Not until you're all the way educated, up and running, and have built some wealth. I'm not talking riches. I mean actual wealth is when you should start leveraging. So that's my only bone to pick.
And most people would be just fine without ever using leverage.
Correct.
In fact, I try to avoid. In our flipping company, we do borrow money to do the flips.
We do too.
But
Yep.
I'm at a point now, savings wise, where I really wouldn't have to do that. I like lend. I'm a lender now. I like being the bank. I like being the lending side of it, especially because I know how to find deals that are paying 10 to 18% on average. And I'm an active private money lender, but I love the private lending side. But I think that, like you just said, people just don't understand the risk that they're getting into, and they immediately start following the flashy people like Grant Cardone, and they're like 10x, or if you're doing this, you're an idiot, or if you have money sitting in the bank, you're an idiot. And I said, I always preach to my clients, there's a technically right way to treat money, and then there's the right way for you and your situation and your risk aversion. I know people worth. All of our rentals are paid off. I'll just say us. All of our rentals are paid off for my wife and I. Do they need to be? Nope. Could we refinance them when interest rates were 3%? And do I have a small bit of a regret there? Maybe. But I don't like owing anybody money. I don't like it.
We pay down our properties.
This is my guy right here.
I know. We pay down our properties at an accelerated rate.
Like I just want to sit here and take notes. That's my guy.
I mean, that's how we operate too. We lived through 2001, which people forget was a big bust in the real estate market, and 2008. So we were both around for those. We saw people that were high wealth and smarter than us. And I mean that. They had more wealth and more intelligence than us go bust in both of those market downturns because they misused leverage. They over-leveraged. They fell in love with leverage. You didn't miss out on anything by not refinancing those properties at 2%, sir. You did the right thing.
I know that. I'm just saying that, I just say our duplex or say our quadplex is worth $250. I could have pulled 150 grand out of that and put it back to work and put it to work at 12%, lending it out. Yeah. But it's like that's a lot of movements to make. It's a lot more risk to make a little extra money, in my opinion. Now, is it the smartest thing to do with your money? Is it technically the best use to maximize return? Yes. But also, how do you sleep at night? I'm not a risk adverse person. I'm a risk real person. And people confuse the two oftentimes, especially when we go into markets like we might be getting into now. It's like, oh, you thought you were smart because you owed all this money or were leveraging all this money. But now how are you going to make the payment when people stop paying rent? Like people just... I feel like people don't account for the negative. And if you do account for the negative, now you're a negative person. It's like, no, I'm not a negative person. I just want to make sure my butt's covered in a worst case scenario.
Totally.
And that helps me sleep better at night.
Totally. And, I talk about it on our show here all the time. It's a state of mind. And if you start out running loose and, leveraging your investments to the hilt, when do you stop? That ball just keeps rolling and it just gets worse and worse. Otherwise, if you take the Dave Ramsey approach, which to a lot of people is not very sexy, it's either owning outright or stabilizing it with tons of equity in it and then adding on, and stabilizing and having tons of equity and then adding on. It's part of a mindset, and that mindset will work over the long term. That running hot and 10x and more. It's not about
that requires the market to only go up. It does not work in a flat or downward market.
And we're talking about in our market of Indianapolis. We don't see the huge jumps that other markets do, and we still watch people completely lose their shirt during the Great Recession because we saw a 5-10% pullback in our real estate prices. 5-10%, that sunk people. If you get in some of these other larger markets where you see 15, 20%, 30% pullbacks, you're going to be in the bankruptcy line, much quicker. But anyhow,
I foresee a lot of people in trouble in the next, starting now up into the next 3 or 4 months, because they started BRRRR deals back in in the summer. They started rehabbing BRRRR deals, and now when they go to refinance that property and it's worth $50,000 less, I hope you have money to bring to the table. Look, we're good. I would say we're a great flipping company. We've done over 200 deals. We just accounted for one of our flips to bring $10,000 to the table, and we know what we're doing. We got a little bit overzealous in the summertime with the ARV on one property, and the contractor kind of screwed us. And we still actually the projections show that we'll make about 25 on it. But that's projections. Why not? You better have a contingency plan. And I'm always super conservative. But look, if you do 200 flips throughout your lifetime, you're going to lose on a couple of them. That's just how it goes.
Happened to us.
Yeah, so we still do 6 to 15. I'd say 6 to 10 a month because for the last year, about 6 to 10 flips a month. And we've had to bring cash to 3 in the last 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
3 in the last 3 months.
It happens.
I don't lose any sleep over it. It is what it is. But
because the other 6 are going to make money.
Yeah, and it's part of it.
I was just grateful that they were over.
I know. I sent a wire last Friday to a closing. I drove to the bank, and it was the best $11,000 I've ever spent because that house is gone.
Good luck.
It's pain to get rid of a headache. Yeah, I'm down with that. Dude, there's some I'm like, I don't care if we bring things. I don't want to hold it. Right. I don't want the property. Just get rid of it. I'm paying to get rid of a headache, and I'm buying sleep back. But yeah, anyway, so if you guys are listening in and you're new, this is 3 quote unquote professionals in the business that all said we've lost money on flips in the last 2 to 3 months, and we know what we're doing. So if you think you're just going to run into this with no contingencies, and I'm not trying to scare you away from it, I'm just saying learn first. Learn about contingency, learn about risk, then invest. Otherwise, you're going to hate this game. There's so many people that rush into this and don't know everything they're doing. And they're like, oh, rentals suck and investing in real estate. And then they teach their kids that real estate sucks. And it never stops from there just because they didn't do it right in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, we're so like-minded, John. It's kind of scary almost. But and I could sit here and talk to you forever about real estate. But I want to talk about the Schoeller Family YouTube channel because we got a chance to talk about it before we came on air. And I know it's blown up. You got a lot of followers, but you're still growing. But you've got a very interesting family, and it's a lot just because you've got strong family values. You're a hard worker. You guys just recently adopted a daughter. Your wife's got a strong work ethic just like you. So just anyhow, tell us a little bit about it.
Let me just explain to folks though too. Mm-hmm. This is hundreds of thousands of people watching this show every week. That he's putting out these videos. I mean, he has advertisers, reaching out to him, wanting to be a part of this. So besides his real estate stuff, that he's great lessons in there. He obviously it's like looking in a mirror with a twin for Clint. They say the same thing. So follow him on that. But his family stuff, it's unbelievable. It's really neat, and it's neat how the crossover brings them into his real estate life, and the real estate people, bump into the family life. I found him through real estate first, and then the family, but. this is a big show, and he's doing neat stuff. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it's about 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago. My wife and I challenged each other to each start a YouTube channel. She just got started in CRNA school, nurse anesthetist school, and I was getting started in the real estate. And we said, okay, let's do it. And we each made a video a week, and we still are. My channel slowed down a little bit, and I'll explain that. But we both started pumping out content. My wife took off. First of all, she's prettier than me.
Right.
But second of all, nursing school is much more a broader spectrum than real estate, and she just made probably better content. I'm not going to give any excuses. Her channel kind of took off. She started making money on YouTube within 3 months. I made a year of videos, actually a year and 3 months of videos on my channel about real estate before I made $1 every week for a year and 3 months, which was hard. And some of those videos were tougher to make than others. But anyway, we started doing that, and her channel was growing and having some success. And then she graduated. She finished nursing anesthetist school 3 years later, and we didn't know what else to do with her channel, so we just kind of started filming ourselves and our travels and stuff. And then we started to foster, and we fostered our now daughter, and people followed that journey, and we eventually adopted a little over a year ago. And so Tiana, our daughter, came into our life, and people just gravitated towards our story and all that we do. And we travel. We probably travel at least, I don't know, 10 to 12 times a year at least. And these are big. We just got back from Bora Bora for 2 weeks. Like
Nice.
we went to Switzerland for 3 weeks. Like we're doing, like, I guess you would say, bigger trips. And this is our why. Like when people ask me, what's your why? And literally my why, I think I made an Instagram post, is to travel indefinitely with my family.
Yeah.
That's my why. Like I love to travel. I'm not into stuff. I like cars. I like a Ferrari. I like a Lamborghini. I could have them. But I've bought nicer stuff before, and I know that it wears off after a couple weeks, and then I end up just cleaning it and worrying about it. But one thing that never stops for me is travel and exploring new places. So we highly leverage our low cost of living area that we live in Charleston, West Virginia, to travel anywhere we want, whenever we want. And so that our family channel, the Schoeller family, has become about our family and our travels. And we've exploded to over 200,000 subscribers now. We're growing pretty quickly. And we do we do a video a week, and we have another 160,000 on TikTok, 110,000 on Instagram, and we're building our Facebook page. So we have about 400,000 or more followers across all of the social media platforms. And it's quickly allowed us to do our why while getting paid. And it's a job technically for our now 4-year-old daughter. So she gets to max out her Roth each year. And so this has been incredible. She's been maxing her Roth since she was 2 years old. 3 years old. We had to wait on getting her social security number. But she will have just in her Roth account hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time she's 18, just because she has a job at 3 years old, because technically we could tell the IRS that our channel wouldn't make the money it makes without her.
Right.
So she's a child actress, if you will. And so it's been great. And if you guys know this rule or don't know this rule, you can pay your kids up to $12,000 a year. And that's a complete write-off to the business. And the child owes no taxes on that because of the standard deduction. So not only does she get $12,000 in her account, we get the $12,000 write-off on the business, and $6,000 of that goes into the Roth, which is actually pre and post-tax free.
Each year he buys his kids a house. They each get a house. Each year he buys his kids each a house.
There you go. I love it. I love that.
My kids
we'll
are
do that
grown
for her
now,
as well.
so I'm off the hook. I'm empty nester. I'm off the hook.
There you go.
So I'm done.
I'm pretty enamored with the Schoeller Family YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'm going to be. I've started watching it whenever we knew we were having you on the show. I started getting into. I saw you guys at Costa Rica and Tiana in a hammock, and I haven't get to.
That's her working.
I know.
You mean you saw her working?
That's her getting work.
I
That's
know.
her working.
But I'm anxious to see you guys in Bora Bora. I went to Bora Bora not too long ago, and it was like
Beautiful.
the greatest
Yeah,
place
he
I've
travels
ever been
at
to.
least 15 times a year, I'd say.
I travel a lot,
Yeah.
but we're kind of in a Disney phase now. I've got 3 and 6-year-old daughters. I'm pretty old to have such young kids, and like they love Disney, and because they love Disney, I love it too. Like
Yeah. Every few months they're there.
I'm trying to avoid it. I've been trying. I'm holding off.
He loves it.
She doesn't watch a lot of Disney characters yet. She's into more like some Netflix stuff and like Bluey and things like. Is Bluey Disney? I'm not
It
sure.
is.
But anyway,
Yeah.
she hasn't asked to go to Disney
Quit
yet.
fighting it. Quit fighting it. Here's my advice.
I know.
Yeah.
He loves it. He loves it. And
Lines and crowds give me anxiety,
Me
but
too.
I'm going to. Do you buy the Fast Pass?
Well, now they've got it different to where there's a Genie app. It's called the Genie Plus Disney app, and if you can book, you can plan your day out. Like the morning that you get up to go to the park, and you're talking that there's like 4 or 5 rides that really have long waits at each park. If you pay $200-300 extra per day, you can plan. So you're going to go to this ride at 1:00, this ride at 3. But there's also
the VIP. Tell him about
there's
the
also
VIP.
a VIP tour. I was going to do it this time, but my mom and mother-in-law didn't go at the last minute. My daughter had broken her foot, but we still went. That actually kind of worked out because we got the red tag disability plus, so we didn't have to wait on anything. But anyhow, we were going to do this VIP, and they come and pick you up at your hotel, and then they take you in all these back entrances.
So they drive you around in like an Escalade or Yukon, and you don't have to go to any of the lines.
You're the president of Disney.
Right.
So you could do that,
nice.
with your YouTube show. That would be cool.
And I was actually pretty surprised. I mean, it costs money, but I was actually pretty surprised. Like that, I think that they could have charged more. I mean, they're going and getting your food for you while you're on the ride, and then you get off the ride. They're standing there with your drinks and snacks and all that stuff. But yeah, I would recommend Schoeller Family, Disney. Really soon. And if you have any questions on Disney, my daughter's 6 and she's been 8 times, so I know my way around. I'm happy to
your tour guide.
So that's another huge perk of the channel, because we travel so much. We often don't pay. Like we're going to the Wolf Lodge. I don't know if you guys are familiar with
of course.
That. So we're going to they're sponsoring us for 4 days there. So a lot of places we go, Bora Bora, some of our resort stay, like they just cover us because they know we're going to shout out their resort or whatever. And usually they upgrade us to their nicest room.
How do they feel about you bringing your cousins on those trips?
Yeah, there we go. I can do that. So this is where, if I had to say we're all in on something, I would say like it's probably the Schoeller family at this point. Like we're still very active in real estate. If any of my investors are listening, don't worry, you're
right.
safe. I'm still paying attention. But I would think that we're all in on that. And private money lending is probably where we've kind of niched down to a lot over the last year or two, just because it allows us to spend as much time together as possible while still feeling like we're being productive and have a purpose. And that's been a very nice mix for us. Now, we're not all in the terms of like we're not investing elsewhere, or that we don't count for YouTube just disappearing tomorrow. We're always accounting for worst case, but where our focus really is right there. And my wife is like, she was meant to do ads. Like if you guys ever watch one of our YouTube videos, this girl can pick up a script. I can't do it. I don't do any of our ads, not even on my channel. She does them on my channel. She can get a script, read it, retain it, spit it out, and sounds like it was completely unscripted. If it's me, I'm forgetting one word. I got to refilm. I screw it up. Like my ADHD kicks in. But that has really helped us.
It sounds like your wife's better than you in every single way, which I understand.
Everything.
So is mine.
Everything.
So
it's
is Clint's.
annoying.
I get it.
It's annoying.
Well, yeah, welcome to the club.
Well, and a lot of people probably listening don't know, but nurse anesthetist school is like no joke. I mean, there's only a few schools in the country that you can even go to get your nurse anesthetist degree, and like it's the pinnacle of nursing. I mean,
can you spell anesthetist?
Oh my gosh, you kidding me?
Yeah.
I can barely say it. I've been sitting there concentrating on it throughout the
I still can't spell it.
So I get it right. But so there's no doubt that she's a very smart, person, because you and I aren't getting through that school.
No.
There's a 0% chance that, that we were getting through that.
You can't show up drunk to
in.
class in that school.
Yeah. Well, we joke about that. We both went to Indiana University and went through the business school, and we've heard about the criteria to get into Indiana's business school. Now we wouldn't get in now.
Yeah, I don't.
Wouldn't get in.
I don't even remember applying to the business school. We talk about this all the time. I felt like I got
because you were drunk all the time.
Because I was drunk all the time.
That's right.
It's one of the best business schools in the nation, and all these kids talk about how special it is, and I'm like, special? I graduated with a 1.3 in high school. I don't. Yep. But they let us in.
Let us in. Well, I'd like to sit there and turn this into about 4 different podcasts. Like I said, this has been really fun, and I love your story. You've got 2 fans of the Schoeller Family YouTube channel that I'm going to be watching, tonight. My wife's going to a Christian concert with some friends, and me and my girls are going to be checking out the Schoeller YouTube channel tonight. But we like to end with 3 real estate related questions on our podcast. I don't know that we have to stick to it with real estate because of, yes, you got the real estate background, but
just let's take the words real estate out of this.
Yeah.
So what's the best decision you have ever made?
Marrying my wife.
Man.
There's no question
there wasn't
about
a
it.
hesitation.
No, I got to work on that timing in case I'm ever asked. So I can.
I feel like less of a man right now because it was just like boom.
But
Right.
it's second right there with adopting our daughter. Like it's obviously without my wife, my daughter doesn't. This situation doesn't exist. But those 2 things are the best things that ever happened.
All right. Any decisions in life? The biggest one that you regret?
Biggest one that I regret. Not buying Bitcoin in 2011.
Yeah.
I still don't even really know what Bitcoin
That's
is.
That's a financial one, but I've been watching the crash lately. But even if you bought in 2011, this still isn't a crash.
So I bought a bunch of it in 2012. I bought 4 Bitcoins when it was $400. I think it was 2012. Maybe it was 11. $400. And my coin, it was when Coinbase first came out, and my wallet kept trying to get hacked. I kept getting emails, and they closed and it scared me because I don't know anything about any of that, and I sold them all,
But full disclosure, I'm not a huge crypto fan.
Yeah.
I have I have less than 1% of my net worth invested in crypto just in case, see what happens.
I'm scared at how easy it appears to be for young folks now to be able to buy it. I noticed in my PayPal, someone paid me with Bitcoin recently. They paid me with Ethereum.
Seriously?
Yeah, my PayPal and Venmo. Someone paid me in Venmo with crypto. So that scares me a little bit. I mean, maybe that's good that it's being adopted and used for the first time, which is what it was supposed to, but it scares me how accessible it is, like for my kids to be able to, I want to chase that dream,
Yeah, I'm not a crypto denier anymore. I think too many big firms and big brands and big businesses have taken it on. I just don't know what it will be and which coin it will be. And so I don't advise anybody. Like it's way too risky for me, and I don't teach about it. But it was more of a joke to answer your question. But that is, I do wish I bought in 2000.
For sure. Yeah. I remember being at a real estate conference at about the same time. We were out in Phoenix, I think. And there was someone up on stage that was talking about Bitcoin. I remember sitting there talking about how stupid and how ridiculous it is. And then I remember us talking about that conversation a couple years ago thinking, man, you remember when that guy was up on stage?
Did he talk right after us or something?
Yeah.
So we talked about real estate, and then the guy afterwards says Bitcoin, and Clint's just back there, what a moron. Who's going to listen to this? That's never going to be worth anything.
I'm kind of an old fuddy-duddy, but then we talked about it a couple years ago, like, could you imagine the money that we would have made had we listened to the guy at the time?
Whatever. It sounds like you're living a purposeful life just like us, so we're blessed no matter what. But, okay, last thing, and I will keep this real estate related. What real estate advice do you have for that next generation?
Get around people. Like, this could go with anything, but get around people that are doing what you want to do as soon as possible. I'm not the strict kind of, like, there's a lot of like memes out there or like quotes like leave the people behind and get around the people you want to be. You don't necessarily have to leave people behind, but you got to mix it up. You can't stay around the same people you're around doing the same thing, to having the same talks and taking no action, or you're going to be doing that next year. Mix it up. Hang with those people too. You don't have to get rid of all your old friends and family unless they're toxic, but get around other people too and mix it up. Maybe bring an old friend with you to meet these new friends, but you have got to get around these people. And then finally, like, not just get around them, but join up with people that are your yin and yang, that are yin to your yang, that like push you, that maybe are more risky than you are. Don't let them drag you into bad things, but allow them to push you. Allow them to like encourage you is probably a better word for it, to take that action and do that as soon as possible. And that would be my advice for almost anything you want to do in life, but especially real estate.
It's really, really interesting advice. Some of the best advice I ever got was very similar, which is make sure that the people around you celebrate your successes and mourn with you on your losses. That's how you can tell you're around the right people. And it sounds like you encourage, it's great advice to get around the right people that push you, that encourage you, that celebrate with you your successes. And I think it's great advice.
I like to advise most people, and it might sound extreme, but if you can, and Canadians do this, and I think it's pretty smart. If you can, after 18, instead of running off to college, go travel for a year. Go anywhere and go get out of where you've lived or around the people you're used to being with and get out. I'm not saying you don't return. I'm not even saying it might change your mind or anything. Your ideals will change. They probably will. But I think that like your mind will open. You will see new things. Do that for at least 1 year before deciding what you want to do in college or what you want to do with the rest of your life. And if not that, after you graduate college, also just move. I think a lot of people stay in the situation that they're in for too long, and then they like to blame everything. And oftentimes it's just your surroundings. You don't have any opportunity or people presenting to you opportunities that you might have elsewhere. And what's the worst that can happen? It's 1 year.
I wish you would have talked to my kids. I offered to pay for a year for them before college to go explore in life, and they turned it down. I wish you would have been around then to talk to them.
We backpacked Europe for 4 weeks when we were my wife and I were probably in our mid-20s. And the number of like 18 and 19-year-old Canadian people that were just out by themselves. This girl was 18 years old. I felt it was a little bit risky, but maybe I'm being too risky there. I don't know if I'd want my daughter at 18 traveling the world with a backpack, but she's having a blast, right? And she discovered she wanted to be a photographer, and now she's one of the best photographers to get a huge following on Instagram. Does she figure that out if she did not travel for that year? I don't know, but I just really like the idea of it because I think we're sold the quote unquote of the American dream of like, go to high school, get good grades, go to college, and it better be a good college, right? Because if you go to community school, you're not as cool. That's not true, but this is what we're told. And then finish college, get married ASAP, buy the white picket fence home, go into debt, and your main goal in life, the biggest asset for you to ever own is your house. And that's it. That's where it wraps up for you. And I think for a lot of people that just doesn't fit anymore, and then you get tied into debt too early and tied into life. I mean, to each their own, and every situation is different, but like having kids at 22, you've really limited yourself. I really feel like you've limited yourself. I'm not saying that some people shouldn't or that some people don't or it wasn't your choice. But if you're making the choice to get married and have kids at like 19, 20, 21 and buy that house, I really feel like you put a lot of shackles on yourself. But
I agree.
Does that feel wrong? I mean, I
agree. I think there's positives and negatives to both sides. But, I had my first child at 36. And, the great thing about it is, we were, my wife was successful. My wife was in the pharmaceutical industry, and, I'd already, had my successes in real estate. And then it offered, me the ability to send my kid to private school and different things. And we're comfortable and we're able to go to Disney and not think about it and do these things. Like if I had a kid at 22, we would have been eating ramen noodles, right. So I totally agree.
I didn't get married till my late 30s, I packed in a lot of life in there. So, I agree with it. Live while you're young. I just wish my kids you would have talked them into it. Cause I thought it was an amazing offer to pay for them to have a year off before. And support them with it, but the good thing is they're moving away after college, so that's second best.
There you go.
And I don't mean that for us. I want them as close as possible, and I'll visit them all the time. But they need to get out of that bubble, like you said. It's easy to. I have a friend who has only left the county once. One time. Has only left the county he lives in. You get stuck in a rut in life if you don't explore and get uncomfortable.
Yes, agreed.
It's okay to go out and be uncomfortable in this world.
Well, Jon, we really enjoyed having you on the show, man. We really appreciate your time. Your story is amazing. Like I said, you've got. We hope that we can help you expand your audience because we believe in your message and what you're doing out there. So we're very gracious. Thanks so much for coming on.
Frugal Investor, Schoeller Family, more than money.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys so much. I hope that some people find this valuable and it helps them get to where they're going in life. And I'll share you guys' stuff as well. And if y'all want to have me back on one day, we can talk about something else.
It would be our pleasure.
The offer goes the other way, my friend. If there's anything we can do to help you,
Bora Bora, we're available.
that's right.
Costa Rica,
That's right.
whatever you need, we're available.
Well, that's our show. We really thank Jon Schoeller for coming on. Yes, you got to check him out. Check out More Than Money Consulting. Check out the Schoeller Family YouTube channel. Check out the Frugal Investor. More Than Money, $50 a month. Check this guy out, man. It's unbelievable the knowledge that this guy has. And how refreshing is it to see someone with this kind of success be so down to earth and so humbled? We're inspired. Till next time, everybody, happy investing.